Hey guys, welcome to the Bourboneering YouTube channel. I'm your host Austin. Let's get started. So today, we've been doing the Bourboneering bracket battle. So it's time to kind of take a little break from bourbon maybe. We're going into the land of Scotch. Doing a little series called Bourboneering's Best. And I'm going through my favorite of a certain topic. So today's topic is the region of Islay in Scotland. So we're looking at 3 Islay Scotches that I really like. These are my favorite in this category, and I'll talk to you about why, and also talk about what makes Islay different and things like that. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and pour these 3, give a quick rundown, and let them kind of, sit around while we talk about Islay and then talk about our sponsor, of course. All right. This first bottle right here is Bruichladdich. From the Bruichladdich distillery. It's the classic Lottie. These Scottish words, y'all, are tough, so please forgive me. Alright, starting here. This is 100 proof, so we're actually kind of going a little bit of reverse order of proof here. But I want to do it in a certain order for a certain reason. You'll see why. This is 46 proof. This is from Lagavulin. It's part of the Game of Thrones series. It is their 9-year Lagavulin. Again, go more over these when we start drinking them, but I'm going to just pour them so they're getting some air, You're supposed to do that with Scotch, I think. Maybe. Beautiful colors on these. Ready. And lastly, a brand new bottle pop. It's not new to it's a new bottle to me, but I've had this bottle 1,000 times. Go through it too quickly. And this is Laphroaig Galore. Noticing some big Scotch names here. Good pop on that. It's a good pour. Alright. So, join my Patreon account if you want to see me do something real weird and funny with these at the end. Check that out soon. Alright. So, while these are sitting, let me talk about Islay. Islay is one of the 5 regions in Scotland. Scotch making regions in Scotland. They are known for their peaty, smoky whiskey. So like the Laphroaigs, Lagavulin to see in front of me. Bruichladdich a little different. We'll talk about that in a second. But that's what they're known for, the kind of the peaty smoke. And why are the whiskeys peaty? Why is Scotch in general known for having peat, using peat? So peat is big blocks of dried earth. There's peat all over the world. Every country has peat. Scotland has very few trees in compared to the peat. So they use that traditionally as firewood or fire starter, fire material. Well, when you're the malting process, when you're malting the barley, that literally means you're letting the barley sprout. But to stop that sprouting process where you want it, you need to add heat. And so they would burn peat to heat it up to stop it. That peat created a smoke that ended up flavoring the grains. So you get that peat influence from the smoke all the way back in the grains before it's mashed in, before it's fermented, before it's distilled, before it's aged. You already have that smoke flavor there. And that's the tradition in Scotland in general. That was the tradition. Everyone else has gone to, more like electronic or less flavor influenced ways of heating the malt to stop it, or using a way to not let get the heat from the fire but not let the smoke hit it. So that's kind of the norm now in most of Scotland, except for Islay. You can also get a little bit of peat flavor from the water that the distillery is using. If it runs through a lot of peat bogs, you can get a little peaty. It's less smoky flavor, more the muddy peat flavor, and we'll go over that in a second as well. So that's kind of the history, a little bit of background on why Islay is the way that it is. So now let's talk about our sponsor, and we'll get to trying these whiskeys. So again, this video is sponsored by the Bourbon Society of Baton Rouge. I got a new cup here from them. It's freaking fantastic. If you join the Bourbon Society of Baton Rouge, you get an opportunity to join a community that welcomes you where you are in your whiskey journey. Even Scotch. We have a whole channel on our Discord talking about Scotch. But obviously specifically American whiskeys like bourbon and rye. That's kind of the focal point, but we get off on many different subjects. It's a great way to meet new people, make great friends in this whiskey community. We also help out a lot of local charities. We just finished up a charity helping out Folds of Honor, a raffle helping out the Folds of Honor for one of our fallen members. It raised, I think, $15,000 for the Folds of Honor. It was an awesome charity event with some great bottles raffled off. But most importantly, we helped some people. So that's another great aspect of the community. Also, we do barrel picks. Isn't that awesome? We get our own barrel picks. I'm just looking up here. I always look up here to look at what we've done recently. We have Jack Daniel's barrel picks, local distilleries, Four Roses. Anything you can think of, we do barrel picks of. So again, thank you, Bourbon Society of Baton Rouge, for sponsoring. You can go check them out at bourbonbr.com/join. All right, let's get to tasting, shall we? This is Bourboneering's best. So I picked these 3 bottles because they're all relatively available, at least in my area. They're not hard to get, rare bottles. So first we're going to start on this side with this Bruichladdich Classic Lottie. Now, it's the highest proof. Why would I start with that? Because it's super relevant. It's like, it runs around $50, so it's, a little pricey, but it's not too bad. But it's a great way to jump into Islay because it's unpeated. What does that mean? They didn't use peat to dry it out. Now, if you try it, I'm going to give you a review of it. There's going to be a little bit of briny saltiness, and that's from the climate. Islay is an island. So you're going to get a little bit of that from the climate and maybe even the water they use, but there's no peat in here. Looking at it, it's a lot lighter than bourbon. It's a nice light straw color. All right. That sweet butterscotch on the nose. I just reviewed a Monkey Shoulder for the podcast on Friday, and it's a very similar nose, but the salt is turned up on this. Salty, like a salted caramel, but replace the caramel with butterscotch. It just cuts through that sweetness. And underneath that, just a kind of minerality that just works. You can smell the terroir. In fact, Bruichladdich is known for their quote-unquote terroir of their whiskey. They're very careful about what grains they choose because of that. It smells delicious. Give it a taste. The nose is very clear about what's in the taste. I get a lot more. So you get that butterscotch, right? That saltiness that cuts through the sweetness beautifully. But then you get like a slice of like green apple, but it's like a slice of apple pie. You get your green apple, you get your kind of the baking spices, cinnamons a little bit, not quite as much as a bourbon, but pretty good on the cinnamon note here. And then you get that breadiness from the malt. Fantastic. The finish, pretty good medium long finish. Light, more of the sweet butterscotch and that apple note I'm talking about. Just a little bit of salt there on the end. Fantastic pour. And like I said, I always start with this one because it's a great way to ease yourself into the smoke if you're not used to it. So Bruichladdich, Classic Lottie, grab it. Grab anything from Bruichladdich. It's fantastic. They make the highest peated scotch, which is Octomore as well. Same distillery. So check that out. All right, let me grab a swig. Let's go on to our Lagavulin 9. Now this one again is a Game of Thrones bottle. You may not be able to find this much anymore, but this is representing Lagavulin. They have the, I believe the 8 years, their bottom shelf release around $40, $50, and then their 16 years really what they're known for. This is kind of like just your classic Islay. This, your baseline. I didn't want to have 2 Laphroaigs, but you could replace this easily with a Laphroaig 10. That's one of my go-to Isleys as well. They describe themselves as drinking like kissing a walrus. So let's give it a nose. Oh yeah, a lot more campfire here. Whereas Bruichladdich had the kind of salty mineraliness. This has a lot of that as well, but it's more iodine, briny, lots of salt notes there still, but barbecue, almost like a barbecue. Got some kind of like sweet, like there's a rub on the savory meat. But under that, there's a sweetness almost akin to a bourbon to me. It's a brown sugar kind of sweetness. A little richer than the Bruichladdich. All right, let's go to taste. Kind of rubbery flavor. This sounds like bad notes, but it's fantastic in this whiskey. It works really well. Savory, iodine. Now, Laphroaig 10 is going to be a little more on that iodine side, Band-Aid kind of flavor, but Galore is going to be different than that, so you'll see. Real salt, real savory, like a savory ham, just like a honey baked ham where there's sweetness on the outside, but it's savory and salty. Smoke to me does not really overpower it in the taste as much as it does in the nose. It's definitely smoky. It's definitely peaty. So I don't want you to walk in there thinking it's not. But someone who's used to it, it's not as overpowering, especially on the taste. That finish, just salty brininess, a little bit of smoke in there, and then that kind of hammy meat finish. Delicious. Fantastic. I love Islay whiskey, especially when I get to sit down and actually think about it and talk about it. It's my favorite Scotch region for sure. My favorite single malts probably. Now let's talk about this Laphroaig. I picked this one. Again, it's relatively readily available at any place that has a pretty good Scotch selection, but it's on the higher end. This one cost me about $109. So it's your higher end, easy to get Islay, in my opinion. And it's not even age stated. It's a blend that the distiller really wanted to get out there. It's all from the same distillery. Don't get me wrong. It's a mixture of sherry cask finish sherry cask aged and bourbon cask aged. I'm reading up on it. What's the proof? I didn't even look at the proof. It's 48. Okay, so it's higher than your Lagavulin. It's a lot darker as well. It's probably the darkest of the three, if you can't tell. It's that sherry influence, and there's some older stuff in there. There's some younger stuff in there. But I also picked it because it's a good sign of what peat turns into with a little bit more care. So underneath it all, definitely there's still a smokiness. Not quite as smoky. A little more iodine than the log. Kind of like a chemically almost. But the sherry in here really balances that out. Cuts through it. Balances with it perfectly. It's almost less of a... I have to hunt more for the smoke notes and hunt less for the apple pie kind of... Or the pie crust. I wouldn't say apple per se. Pie crust. Maybe like a cherry pie. Sherry notes. Still the briny salty. A little more honey on the honey baked ham. Not quite as meaty on the nose. Let's taste it. Rich. That's the best way to describe it, is rich. It has a smoky, it's like a really, really good smoked brisket that has a nice sweet barbecue sauce, but not overpoweringly heavily sweet. Light sweetness. Good savory note in there. A little Band-Aidy, not quite as bad as a younger Laphroaig would be. But it definitely goes into that sweet kind of bread, crusty, malty note that I love, love, love in this. All right. That's fantastic. One more sip. That is awesome. That is awesome. Okay. So... where am I going for here? I'm going to rank them just because why not? This is my go-to, but this is going to be number 3, 2, 1. I did it in order on purpose, right? If you can only have 3 Islas, I would get these 3. Now, if you're trying to get a wide range of scotches, or you're just trying to jump into Islay, definitely start with the Bourboneering. And then work your way up. If you have a buddy who has some lore, try that. Just getting used to peat, I would go in this order. Starting here, then go to the lore, then go to the Lagavulin. But price-wise, this is a lot more expensive than either of these two. Might be more expensive than those two combined. So take that into account as well. But enjoy. Explore. See what you can do. I love Scotch. I love Islay Scotch specifically. Because it's all the same mash bill, right? It's 100% malted barley, but they do so many different things. It's awesome. It's fantastic. All right. Well, that's all I got for you today. Again, if you're a patron member, you can check out. I'm about to follow this up. So thanks, y'all. Cheers.